So I guess we'll start right. And my phone, just collecting myself.
No, no, take your time, bro. Take your
You're
time.
good, bro. You're good, bro. You're
Take your
good.
time.
Collecting myself. Nah, so like we always spoke before, and that's another thing that like if you want to talk about pole, right? It's like to see myself where I started and part of my past is like went to a foster home and thing and been there for a couple of years and almost got adopted. And then I went back with my mother and stuff. So that's how actually I came out to Boston.
Okay.
And part of me being in Boston, my older brothers, one was my grandmother, the other one was in a foster home as well. And my little brother came home with my mother probably a year and a half before me. So he was already out here. And it was just a culture shift, like I grew up like a little town, you know, my mother and my friend's mother knew my mother, my friend's older brother knew my older brother, kind of like Chelsea,
We all know each
how it
other.
is. And yeah, where everybody knows each other. So when I came to Boston, it was a little of a culture shock, and I remember 3 days after I moved to Dorchester, and I was sitting in the car, and no lie, right? My mother's in the driver's seat, my older brother's in the front, and then I'm in the back. So I looked over to the left, and some dude's getting beat up for his sneakers, and we in the car like chilling, like right across the street, and they had one of the dudes on the car beating him up, trying to take his sneakers, and another was in a just watching. So then, like, I'm looking over to my left. They don't care that we're there, and it's just know what they're doing. And I'm like, that's weird. So then, whatever, brush that away. 3 more days later, so it's a week into moving. I look out the window and I'm just like on the porch. Looked out the window, went on the porch, and some dudes are fighting outside. And then somebody gets stabbed.
Oh,
So I'm
Oh
like,
shoot.
yeah, so I'm like, at this time, probably like 13 or 14. So it was a big culture shock, And part of that was that, I started going to school out there, and I got four brothers and older sister. And I grew up around all that. So it's like me going out there, it was always like that one person. You know how that one person will try to test you. So
yeah.
it started off with that, and just me growing up with brothers, it was always defend myself.
Of
So
Mm.
course.
it started off with like little fights here, little fights there, and like as I get older, it kind of led into like more deeper stuff. So like basically, me and my close friends, like we met off of just fighting and doing all that type of stuff like that,
Mm.
and we kind of build a family around that, like
That
just think about,
lifestyle.
yeah, think about like if if you have a group of 10 people that's always like trying to target people, right?
Okay.
And they target like five different people separately, and then one day those five people group together to stand up for that against those 10 people, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it started with like my friends, and then that just led to different stuff, like drugs, fighting, whatever, guns and all that stuff like that. And it lets me doing, getting in trouble basically,
Okay.
and dealing with the law, getting like charges and shit like that. And but the cool part was I never lost vision of where I wanted to be, and like a cool backstory I always say is that my mother, like, she was abusing drugs and stuff, right? So then, like, what made her bring out to Boston is that she went to um, what's it called, substance abuse program,
Okay.
right? So the place that she did treatment in, she also ended up working overnight, and then from working overnight, she just kept working there, working there, working there, to the point where she is now, 12 years later, as like a director of the whole, like a director of all the programs and stuff.
That's
So like
beautiful.
she oversees all these different buildings of the place that where she started from.
Okay.
So with me growing up, seeing that as a vision, it was a battle. It's like where you want to be and where your reality is. So like I always did stuff like, and that's part of me talking to you about trying to find your pluralism and show that brand, because it was always a balance of me having going to school and people trying to jump me, or going to school and people like trying to rob me, trying to stab me and stuff like that. Like I had to deal with stuff like that. Like imagine being 15, you have to go to school. I mean, one day I got caught in school with a knife, right?
Okay.
So then the officer stops me and they're like, "Oh, why you have this, right?" And I'm like, "Well, you know, I got to get to school. So it's either I carry a knife to go to school or I just don't go to school." And then they looked at me and they were like, "Well, at least stash it outside." My teachers and the officers at my school, like, so they knew what it was, and it was like those are the challenges I had to go through with school. And so it was always a balance of the reality and where I want to be. So even to this day, man, it's like now I transition that. So it's like, all right, so if I have to bust at work now, that's my reality. But how is this gonna pull me through to the big? How can I sacrifice right now and like working crazy hours to put me where I want to be in the future? And
Yeah.
that takes me a long way, and something I learned, and that will drive me to like success. Drive me to overcoming anything, basically. And the way I look at it now is like, if I'm able to overcome now, dealing with now is not a problem. So I always look at stuff as how to solve it now. And it gets
Okay.
a little deeper than that. So that's like the over of it.
Okay. Okay.